All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Katie Gardner, and I'm an early elementary English as a second language teacher in Salisbury, North Carolina. I'm really excited to be here today at the MLL Summit to share how I have created meaningful multimodal digital learning tasks to support my students' language and literacy skills. I'll be sharing authentic learning examples of how my students use digital devices and iPad in face-to-face, hybrid, and virtual learning environments to create personalized blended learning products. The resources, guides, and templates I have created will be shared for you to use right away, or feel free to alter them to meet the needs of your students. All right, let's begin with the definition of multimodal. What does this word mean and why is it so important in reference to our MLL students? So this adjective is characterized by several different modes of activity or occurrence. Or in other words, having or using a variety of modes or methods to do something. Now, using this term, multimodal, in reference to literacy, we can look at what makes up a multimodal text. Here it states that multimodal texts use a combination of two or more of the following communication modes, where all modes assist in meaning making. So this pretty much encompasses all of our language domains: reading, writing, speaking, listening, as well as visual literacy. Then we can see below how literacy has evolved with the new definition from the National Council of Teachers of English to include this word multimodal. Now it states that literacy refers to the practice of engaging, creating, consuming, and critiquing with all kinds of multimodal texts. First, I'd like to share my multimodal literacy guide filled with teaching templates you may use to create your own multimodal learning tasks for your students. You may download it for free from the Apple Bookstore using this shareable link or scan the QR code. This teaching guide demonstrates, explains, and shares step-by-step how to create your own multimodal digital activity book or learning task using digital tools, features, and some of the iWorks apps, such as Keynote, Clips, and Pages. Let's briefly go through a couple of pages in this literacy guide for a bit of a better understanding. The book begins with a graphic of how to use the guide and dissects what the meaning of the items are on each page. You'll see that each page has an intentional design, teaching template, a template gallery, so be sure to swipe to see all of the pictures and videos in the gallery on the page, and a learning focus. As you continue in the book, you will see pages like this one that demonstrate how to create multimodal learning tasks with video using Keynote and Clips. Here I demonstrate how you can use Keynote to create teaching videos and model the new language or literacy skills using Keynote shapes and animations. And teaching videos made with clips, you can use live title features, which is similar to a closed caption effect, which is a great support for our MLL students. As you talk and they hear your voice in the video, they see the words appear on the screen. In the scaffolding writing page, you'll discover how to create differentiated writing tasks using the drawing tool to support all levels of learners. And let's create a listening learning task using the audio recording feature, such as this one. In this markup activity, students are prompted to listen to my directions on how to annotate using the drawing feature over the text to demonstrate their phonics skills knowledge. Or let's create a formative assessment for your students like this one, where they utilize the tap and drag or move feature. Scan this QR code or use this link to download a literacy book, activity book I created using all of these featured learning tasks, activities, and tools from my multimodal literacy guide. In this book, our MLLs will practice the letter of the week using a digital baking sheet and magnetic letters and pictures and words, along with all of our communication modes such as audio, video, photo, drawing, and movement. Some tasks include the use of iPad accessibility features, which are fantastic built-in supportive tools for our struggling students. Teaching and modeling how to use these, sometimes forgotten tools, can really be a game changer for our students in their independent learning. Here's a quick video I created showcasing two of the accessibility features we use frequently in my class: spoken text and dictation.
Apple, yellow apple, red apples 2, 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 for me and you.
So as you can see, some of these accessibility features over iPad or other digital devices can really support our students when independent learning in the class or at home. This past year, I really enjoyed creating a series of multimodal vocabulary activity books to supplement our units of study. My students completed one of these books each week. During our hybrid learning, I was able to pre-teach and introduce the new vocabulary unit during our face-to-face time, and then share the book to students' iPads through Apple Classroom. Here are some examples of the vocabulary books from my series. You may download them for free on the Apple Bookstore. And if you're in a virtual learning environment, you can easily create a shareable link to the book to send to your students through your learning platform. Students will need to make sure they have iWorks apps such as Pages already downloaded on their iPad to complete the book. Now let's take a quick deep dive into one of these multimodal learning tasks into these multimodal learning tasks that you would find in one of my vocabulary books from my series. We're going to go through this book titled Community Helpers. This was a book to supplement and support learning about our community and all the people and jobs we would find within it. Each of my books begins with the teacher guide. This is a brief introduction to the book and how you may use it with your students. Tap on the Download the Book template to open a link to the Pages book template. Here you can change any of the content of the book to personalize it for your students' needs. This would also be the copy of the digital activity book for you to share with your students. Next, we have the book key. This is a really important page to introduce the guiding literacy icons that will instruct the learning on each page. These icons are a visual representation prompting the students to either listen and learn using watching a video, listening to audio recordings, reading a text, or listening to a text read aloud to them, or to show and share what they know after consuming and understanding and learning the new vocabulary. This might be through a tap and drag or move situation on the page. They might be asked to type something using the keyboard. Students might record their voice in an audio recording. They may draw or write on the iPad. They may be asked to use the camera to capture a picture or create their own video. Let's use the dictate feature for students to practice that speaking and writing or typing skill, where they dictate the words into the computer or their answers orally, and it types it out for them. Next up is the activity key. On this page, the students will see different colored icons to identify the differentiated activities they will find throughout the book. At the top right corner of each page, as we continue on, you will see an icon at the top right corner to show the level of tasks that each student is able to complete independently. Then there is a quick Memoji video from the teacher to set the stage. This introduces the purpose of the book and the vocabulary unit of study. I love using my Memoji to create video instructions because I find it to be creative and engaging and fun for students to hear or see me telling them or instructing them what to do. Community helpers. These are very important people all around our community. In this book, we will read, write, speak, and listen about some different kinds of community helpers. Here we see the vocabulary word wall. Students will see a visual representation of each word, the text of the word or the label, and then hear an audio recording of myself reading the word and describing the word or its definition. This is a really important page for students to refer back to throughout the completion of the book. Now we're going to dive into each chapter of the book. Each chapter is designated for a certain language domain, beginning with Say It, or the speaking chapter. Here we begin with words. Students are asked or prompted in the audio recording of my directions to create their own audio recording reading the words. Then building up to sentences. Students are asked to create an audio recording completing my sentence starters. In my audio recording of the directions, I may read each sentence starter to add an extra support for students who might not be able to read them completely on their own. I might also at this time give an example of how to complete one of the sentences. Explain. Now, going from words, sentences, to multiple, more complex and detailed sentences, students are asked to create a selfie video by tapping on the media placeholder and using the video feature on their iPad to explain in multiple detailed sentences the answer to my question prompt that will incorporate some of our vocabulary. For example, here I might ask students to explain which community helper they would like to be when they grow up and tell me 2 reasons why. Read it. Now we're on to the second chapter. This is the reading chapter. Here we begin with the simple task of matching. Students will tap and drag or move the pictures of the community helpers beside the label. Build. Now students are tapping and dragging or moving the letters of the scrambled vocabulary word to put the letters in order and build the word. Remember, they can refer back to that vocabulary word wall a couple pages before if they need some extra help. Now building up to fluency, let's practice our fluency skills by reading a simple poem incorporating our new vocabulary words. Remember, if students need extra help with this poem, they can use that Speak Accessibility feature. So here I have taught my students how to select or highlight the text and choose Speak, so they'll hear the iPad or the computer read it aloud to them. They can do this as many times as they want until they're able to try to record themselves reading it all by themselves. Write it. Now let's write. Beginning with a quick warm-up using the typing feature on the keyboard. It's also important for our students to practice their typing skills. Here in my audio recording, they will hear 3 of our sight words dictated that they will type on the iPad. Now building up to words. Here students will use the drawing tool to then write the words they hear dictated in my audio recording. Here I would dictate or tell them 3 of the vocabulary words to write. And once again, they can refer back to that vocabulary word wall for some extra help. Building up to sentences. Now, as we know, it's so important for our early learners and our MLL students to practice writing pencil to paper and not doing everything digitally. So to create a blended learning task, students will listen to my Memoji video, dictate 3 complete sight word sentences with our vocabulary words for them to write pencil to paper. When they're done, they'll tap the media placeholder and take a picture of their paper to add to this page. Number 1, he is a doctor. Number 2, the chef makes food. Number 3, a pilot can fly a plane. All right, now let's listen up, practicing those listening skills. Our Listen Up chapters always begin with a fun scavenger hunt. Students listen to my directions, describing things for them to find around their house that represent some of our new vocabulary words. They will then tap the media placeholder, take a picture of the item to add to this page. This is also a great way for students to really personalize their books. For example, here, students might hear a recording asking them to find something a teacher would use. Then, find something a chef would use. Take a picture of something a doctor might use. After students complete their books, this is a great page to show and share while in class together for students to share with other students some personalized pictures and how they relate to the new vocabulary. Moving along to our story builder. Here, students are listening to a story I have created in an audio recording. They are then asked to tap and drag the emoji pictures at the bottom of the page into the story builder picture. This is a great way for me to kind of sneak in some practice using positional words. For example, the astronaut is inside the spaceship. The farmer is on the right side of the pumpkins. Your turn. The listening chapter finishes with a fun game for students to complete using the dictation accessibility feature. Here, students would watch and listen to my Memoji video, ask them 2 opinion questions incorporating our vocabulary words. For example, if you were a chef, what kind of food would you make in your restaurant? Students would use the dictation feature on the keyboard to answer this question in complete sentences. Remember, using the dictation accessibility feature is a great way to also practice our speaking skills, as students really are challenged to pronunciate their words, speak loudly, slowly, and clearly. Another question they might hear is, if you were an astronaut, what would you see in your travels to outer space? And each book ends with the teacher rubric. This student-friendly rubric uses emoji pictures and allows me to assess the learning, as well as communicate my feedback with students and parents. I can also create notes for students to make any necessary changes when they go back and look at their completed book, or for my personal data collection. Here you can scan the QR code linked to this book, Community Helpers, or use the shareable link to go straight to the Apple Bookstore and download it for free. Here you will also see the other books in my vocabulary series for you to download. So by understanding the importance of providing multimodal learning tasks, my MLLs can consume, create, and communicate with our academic language, vocabulary, and literacy skills. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I love collaborating and sharing ideas with other educators globally, as well as sharing what my students and I are doing in our classroom. Please also feel free to reach me at my email address if you have any questions, comments, or if I can help with any other ways of explaining how I use these multimodal tools to create really fun and engaging learning tasks. Thank you again for joining me today.